going to call the meeting of the LaPorte County Plan Commission Tuesday, November 23rd, 2021 to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nobody can get that right. No matter how many Zoom, you can't get it right.
Thank you.
We need to suggest that everybody on Zoom say it silently.
Yes, please.
There's always like a 2-second delay.
Our illustrious commissioner there, you put a lag into us in the Zoom.
Sorry about that.
If you have any cell phones, please turn them on mute or silence. Roll call, please.
Tony Hendricks.
Here.
Rita Beatty. Here. Harold Parker.
Here.
Adam Karanka.
Present.
Earl Cunningham.
Present.
Joe Haney.
President.
John Carr. Glenn Minnick. Azad Shahal.
The question is, we have a quorum with the 5 present. Does Commissioner Haney vote with whatever rules we're running under?
Yes, you can.
I thank you. So we have 6 present. Is there approval of the agenda as presented or any amendments, additions, corrections, deletions?
I move.
Actually, Tony, I'd like to make 2 additions in terms of new business.
Okay.
Coming from the plan or the BZA meeting last week, discussion regarding tiny homes and amending the joint zoning ordinance to encompass that, as well as adding further definition regarding shooting ranges.
Amend the new business to Board of Zoning Appeals recommendations for tiny homes and shooting ranges. Any other amendments? Is there a motion to approve agenda as amended?
Harold Parker, so moves.
Or second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Is that a nay?
Nay.
All right. Approval of minutes from August 24th.
Move to approve minutes from August 24th as presented.
Motion to approve as presented by Commissioner Haney.
Second.
The second. Any additions, corrections, deletions, changes? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 6 is a petition, but do we have any petitions? There's no petitions. Old business. Number 7. Is there any old business? Seeing none. New business, item number 1, a declaratory resolution of LaPorte County Redevelopment Commission declaring area in LaPorte County, Indiana as an economic development area and approving a development plan for said area, I-94 US 35 economic development area. The floor is ours, I believe, Mr. Reardon.
Mr. Chairman and committee members, Matt Reardon with the LaPorte County Redevelopment Department. What you have before you today is an order of the Plan Commission that would confirm the findings of the LaPorte County Redevelopment Commission and the designation of an area as an economic development area for the purposes of tax increment finance. I brought a copy of the map with me, and in your packet you probably did get a copy of the plan and the plan document and all the other associated accoutrement with that, including the property numbers, P numbers, current assessed valuations, and so forth related to the plan. And if you will, Mr. Chairman, just to cover some high points that were alluded to in the plan. The purposes, the statement of purpose for this identification of this area. It's a necessity. It's necessitated for the proper development and to best serve the interest of the county and its citizens. The anticipated cost of the facilities to locate at the site, when I mean facilities, I'm talking about the infrastructure, sewer and water, and the lack of municipal water services and the lack of municipal sanitary services. It's been a stated purpose of the LaPorte County Redevelopment Commission to activate, when possible, nodes of properties that are adjacent to areas that can be served by utilities. These extension of utilities are done as a function of the municipalities themselves, i.e. in some cases, the municipality kick in a few dollars that they have over the years. That's been done in other tax increment finance areas. And in other instances, we use tax increment financing bonds. We use private activity bonds to extend the utilities to these locations so that investments can be made. This particular area was identified for, well, a couple of reasons. One, in your UDO, you talk about developments and interchanges and how that should work. The plan is in concert with that. The plan was developed in partnership with your county planner, Mitch Bishop. And while the map kind of looks funny, what we did with the map is we've excluded really any known residential areas and focused on areas that are vacant and or zoned for highway commercial, industrial, or business commercial. In order to underscore that, we've also included that documentation into the plan document that specifies the allowable uses. With the creation of this plan, there's no suggested changes of zoning. All that would be done in accordance with your UDO, and it would be incumbent upon the taxpayers that are going to move forward with developments to do so that they come back before this body just like anybody else would with regard to plat approval and so on related to the projects. We've estimated a budget to develop this plan, and if you will, turn to the last page of the plan document, not the attachments, and you'll see well, hold on a minute. Let's start with the general budget for the development. And the location of this is off of Highway 20 and 500 is this targeted development potential. And it calls for a banquet center, a hotel, a restaurant, and 2 retail outlets. So included in your attachments and after the zoning map for this, you'll see the budget and the pro forma. A real conservative estimate for the total investment at this location is $15,320,000, and that includes all of the 5 items I discussed. We did some preliminary analysis on the cost of the utilities, and the estimate is about $5 million. And we kind of gave it a pretty wide berth. We know that there's some proximity with regard to water. We're going to run into the same problem here. You got to go under the highway, which is it's costly. For this particular project to move forward, the developer was made aware of the financing means, was made aware of the potential availability of ARP funds, most certainly was made aware of if there were TIF bonds associated with the project that the developer would have to purchase their own bonds, i.e. put their own money to do this. So that puts the pressure back on the development community to make sure that they do the project, it's done on a timely basis, so new increment that is collected is remitted back to them to pay the debt. I don't have any other high points regarding the plan and the plan development. I will tell the commission that the RDC began this process around 2019 when there was some discussion about the Michigan City Airport doing an expansion and moving forward. We had at that time, and if you look in the back of the document, there was another area plan drawn up and had a little more light industrial stuff that was proposed there. That particular opportunity has since went by the wayside, but we included that property into the proposed area. So, again, what we're trying to do is capitalize on access, transportation, and interchanges, partner with those municipalities that have utilities, and in this instance, it's the City of Michigan City. They've been made aware of this. They have a copy of the plan. This, like the other opportunities throughout the county, have to do work in cooperation with these owners of the utilities. Without their participation, the Plan Commission and other communities and other smaller areas would be having to make decisions about wells and septic and so on, as opposed to following through and having these utilities available and capturing these cost and development potential. And with that, I'll entertain any questions that the commissioners might have about the proposed plan and the plan area and the plan documents. And if there is none, I'd respectfully request the approval of the Plan Commission order, so that then, if it's affirmed by you, This will go back to the county council for their review, similar to this. And then if that then passes that point, goes back to the redevelopment commission, a public hearing is held regarding the plan document, and concurrent with that, any bond activity associated with this project would be done according to the rules set forth in the redevelopment statute, meaning any financing goes through your council, even if it's proposed by the redevelopment commission. Any zoning changes or any plat comes back to this board. So by creating this plan and plan area, what we're doing is trying to activate property. This isn't a get out of automatic go to the front of the line situation. This is a situation where the county is prepared and trying to leverage and invest more in investment and development at these interchanges.
Thank you. For full disclosure, in your packet was an attachment with my firm's title block on there that was not from me. So I want to make it publicly that I or nor my firm have anything in this plan. We were not consulted about using that title block, so I have some concerns. Anything from the board? Questions for Mr. Reardon?
For the sake of the viewing public and our large audience this evening, could you just give us a basic, a ballpark figure of the taxes currently paid by this parcel?
$1,000.
And the tax increment financing table, it wouldn't take us very long to get back where we're collecting $1,000, would it?
Well, you're going to keep the 1,000, right? So that never goes away. And then, depending on if there's debt issued, as the development grows. So, pretty simple math. If you take the total plan investment of, if you just take 15 million, we'll use times the rate at this location. I think it's less than 3%. So I want to say it's like 2.8. So take 15 million times 2.8, and that'll give you the estimated new increment that would be generated. So what happens after this meeting is there'll be a tax impact done,
Right.
that shows the potential growth and what occurred, what can occur. So you got maybe 1,000, and 15 times. Well, hold on a minute. I might as well
3% of 15 million.
I might as well do it while I'm standing.
Roughly
here.
3% of 15 million.
Yeah, roughly.
$430 million or $430,000.
Yeah, there you go. Right. Or 1,000. So all, some, or part of the new increment could be pledged for debt service or to be used for development, not just for this particular area, but outside in the entirety of the area for other projects that may arise. There might be other developments that occur, and that would be up to the redevelopment commission, subject to council and commission approval on any debt issued for the project. And Mr. Chairman,
Eminent domain or anything in this for the properties for development after they get it done?
The TIF district can buy properties.
we can purchase. There's no eminent domain abilities of redevelopment commissions. Any eminent domain would have to be done by the county itself. Furthermore, there's an ordinance in the county that prohibits eminent domain for economic development purposes. So unless it's a road, a street, a railroad, a roadway, or anything, there's a prohibition that was passed by the county prohibiting that. Mm-hmm.
Some questions about, and maybe for our public viewers, whoever might watch this, about TIFs. So if this TIF district goes through, they're creating a bonding authority on this ground, and it would set a base level at today's tax, and anything above that would go to pay the bond off, whether, so for the public to need to know that if there was a bond for this project,
Right.
it would be on the backs of the TIF district
Right.
and the owners,
Correct.
but you would be paid for by the developer through their future
Investment.
investment.
So like we went through the exercise. So you got the 1,000, and then you got the 450. So the $450,000 could be used for debt service, it could be used for other projects, it could be used for other purposes in the statute, which all deal with development, redevelopment, and planning activities. You can't buy property, but it's all willing buyer, willing seller.
The downside potentially, because I've been doing a lot of research the last years on TIF districts, is that, and let me premise this, right now in the residential, in the land market, land values are exceedingly high. And revenue is exceedingly good in the assessor's and the auditor's office. If for some reason we had a bond and property values went down, you could potentially go into the base value to pace that bond off.
Well, technically, no. That's why you do TIF neutralization on an annual basis to make sure that you're not eroding your base, and you make sure that if you demolish property that's within the existing district as created by the base, you make sure that that's accurate. But you're right, it can happen if you're not paying attention to it.
Yeah.
So the idea is never erode the base. Always make sure that that initial base value, which in this district between the land and improvements is taxable value of $26,091,029 of total assessed value.
Now, what year are those values?
That's this year.
Because we all know, everybody around this world knows 2007 we dropped 40%.
Right.
And I don't know, I have a good feeling where we're going right now that there's no way these values can keep up. So it's kind of like a bank loan, but as long as we don't get higher than the income, chances are very small that we get back into the base of the initial TIF.
Yeah, like as I said, Mr. Chairman, if you're vigilant about the districts, you don't dig into the base, and only thing that you collect is new increment. So you just, again, that's the function of the Office of Redevelopment, it's a function of the auditor, and it's a function of planning to make sure you're not going back into the base.
Yes.
I just want to reinforce the Planning Commission, your only decision tonight is whether or not this conforms with the county plan. Okay? That's it. I mean, this information I know is useful, but it's not a statutory basis for your decision. Okay? And there's no request for zoning. The zoning stays the same.
Right.
It is helpful, though, when people start asking questions tomorrow on the street corner.
And I guess my other concern is, and I guess we're for the county plan, but the most progressive state in the United States, California, started TIF districts. And in 2011, they rescinded TIF districts. They no longer do TIF districts in California. They were not conducive to what they were trying to accomplish. And if I understand correctly, Indiana, a few years ago, is passed laws to sunset TIF districts. And they have a 25-year maximum length for TIF district to pay off bonds and to work in other avenues. I just have so many concerns about TIF districts because we know what happens when we create them. Services get taken away, schools, police, fire, those, you're capturing money that could have been, that may have already got there anyways, that's not going to go to the schools and the police and the fire. And I understand that we can do lots of things for infrastructure and utilities, but TIF districts to me are, they don't seem to have panned out as much as everyone thought they'd be, and when you got California actually saying we're done with them, I have some pretty heavy concerns with any TIF district. Any other questions from the board? And like our attorney said, this is just a declaratory resolution to others, so we don't give approval, we're not the end-all be-all, we're not.
Yes, essentially your check mark saying, okay, this conforms to the county plan and the zoning's good.
Would you repeat the, one more time, banquet center, hotel?
Restaurant, retail 1 and retail 2.
Okay.
If you go
R1,
to
R2.
page 8 of the plan,
Right, all right.
Yep.
Thank you.
that's what's proposed, just for one, that's the one location. Right now, there isn't anything proposed. Right now, you get the $1,000.
Right.
So Without sewer and water, you get the $1,000. So that's the way it looks.
For what I'm asking then is, with those 5 units, what percentage of the land would you be consuming? Approximately,
Gosh, it's only
small fraction.
That's it. Right. So you look at the total base assessed value, which is 29 million right now, and 15 million is going in on that little portion.
Right.
Without
It's like a
any,
It looks like a postage stamp on that map.
in comparison to everything else.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
I have a question, Mr. President. Would the establishment of this TIF open up this area for grants that would not currently be available without the establishment of the TIF district? Just for public knowledge.
I don't know.
I have the answer to that. And typically, when you create a economic revitalization area or economic development area, when you request funding for from the EDA or other granting sources, they want to know what you have done locally to invest in this area, what you have done to designate these areas for future growth and expansion. So oftentimes, those areas that have been identified for growth and development are scored a little bit higher when you submit for grants and approvals. Not all grants, but some.
So when this TIF district, if it gets created, what's the maximum or close to the maximum bonding authority they'll be allowed to do?
It's based on solely the new increment generated. So if there's $100 billion spent there, you back into a bond amount that would be consistent with the total amount of investment. So this debt or any debt associated with any TIF district, at least any one that I've been involved in, has nothing to do with the full faith and credit of the community and jurisdiction. Where places like California thought that was a good idea. Where places like Illinois thought that was a good idea. The Indiana General Assembly did a pretty good job when they constructed the Indiana Code 36714. They prohibit most of what these states have done and the reasons why they're failing, because they issue debt in front of projects as opposed to identify projects and issue debt. So when I say that there will be a bond issue related to this project, it's not a bond of the county. It is the county as a pass-through agency for these type of bonds. The only increment or taxes collected for the debt service are as a result of the private sector making an investment in the area. Furthermore, what the private sector is telling us is that we're not going to make an investment here without sewer and water, and we don't have the financial wherewithal to make the project work without your participation. And that's where the but-for test comes in the Indiana Code. So just boiling it down to basics. A project comes in, they say, we would like some assistance from the government. Great, what are you going to do? I'm going to build 2 outlets, a restaurant, a banquet center, and a hotel. I'm like, great. How much does all that cost? So I take that information, I use my assessor training, and I develop an assessed value of that. And I tell you, based on that assessed valuation for those projects, I think your tax increment is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $450,000. So I take that, and I would multiply that out by the total number of years that you could have for tax increment financing, which is 25. Now, you don't have to go 25, but you base it on what you know the project cost to be. So while we don't know what the project costs are today, that would require engineering and design to be accomplished. We have a pretty good range. So we say, we think it's going to be about this much. So once it's designed, we have a number. Furthermore, what we do is we rely on the private sector to actually front fund the money. So I want to say that one more time. They front fund the money into this. So they have more to lose than basically everybody. So them as a new taxpayer to the county or an existing taxpayer making an investment has all to lose if they do not perform at their location. There is no backstop. There is no bailout. So the rest of the taxpayers aren't on the hook. So that's why Indiana TIF works better than Illinois or California or wherever else. Because we do projects, we don't fund infrastructure without projects and hope that it might work out.
Any other questions? What's the pleasure of the Plan Commission?
Tony, I'd like to present a motion to approve that this resolution be presented to County Council for further review due process.
There's a motion for a favorable recommendation of Resolution 01-2021 for approval and forward to the Commissioners of LaPorte County.
Commissioners?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor for the motion for a favorable recommendation for Resolution 01-2021 for LaPorte County for the redevelopment, declaring an area in LaPorte County Economic Development Area 39 and 94, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm opposed.
Nay.
What was that?
Nay.
That's Commissioner Haynes and nays, so that's 2-3.
We do have Assad.
Assad? You have to unmute.
Yes, sir.
Are you aye?
Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I am with Commissioner Joe Haynes.
Are you aye or are you nay?
Nay.
4-3.
Doesn't it?
Looking at Doug for direction.
Doesn't it still have to be 5?
It's 4-3 is a pass.
Thank you.
Thank you. Move on to other new business. BZA, we're going to leave this up to our BZA member.
All right. So during last week's BZA meeting, there was a couple of different petitions to which identified some opportunities, if we'll say, or openings in the current joint zoning ordinance. First of which is tiny homes. If you look out into the public nationwide, there seems to be more and more of a demand for tiny homes, although it's not as high as traditional stick-built homes. There's still demand, and the current joint zoning ordinance has a limitation of a minimum of 1,000 square feet for a freestanding home. And if you look at the market for tiny homes, there are obviously anything 1,000 square feet and far less, as well as how are they built and constructed. Even as far as using shipping containers as the base construction, leading into a prefabricated kit home. You can buy them from Home Depot and Menards, or you can buy some of them that are quite luxurious. At some point, we're going to have more of a demand, and right now it's a hard no if we look at the joint zoning ordinance. So I would recommend that we investigate some level of amendment to have some structure for allowance for tiny homes within the current need and sight of what we want the joint zoning ordinance to allow.
So ours is a hard no.
Ours is a hard
They're
no.
like trailers or mobile homes.
They're either trailers, mobile homes, or just too small. If
They're
you
not
look,
on foundations.
they are, some are on foundations,
Some
some are not. It all depends on the situation.
Just because they're too small.
Yes, but right now the minimum limit is 1,000 square feet, as I read the zoning ordinance.
What's the smallest tiny home you're aware of?
From what I read online, 80 square feet, which seems ridiculous for myself, but others have different needs. So,
Typically, they're like an apartment, 600 square foot. What do they call them? They call them park homes. You can buy park homes from like Middlebury, and they're like a one-bedroom apartment, tiny home, pre-done, non-trailer.
yes, and others, like I said, can be attached to a footing. So,
We're looking at the building commissioner.
I have at least one of these that's pending a permit in my office, and due to the zoning of where this is at, and it being less than the 1,000 square foot minimum requirement in the JZO, I'm requiring them to appear before the BZA to get a variance.
Is this in addition to the one we saw last week?
Yeah, I believe it is, isn't it? It's a new one.
It's different. It's 960 square feet, and it's actually got a full walkout basement, but it's not included in the square footage because we only include above grade.
So their only recourse right now is BZA.
Correct.
Thoughts? Paths forward? Discussion? Mitch? Tiny homes? Tiny homes, any idea how we should? Because right now they're a hard no unless you go to the Board of Zoning
How
Appeals.
many have you actually had? I think they're stalling out a little bit.
Yeah, there hasn't been that many,
Okay.
but I concur with Mr. Karanka that there is a growing interest and that these are going to start appearing. So, you know, the remedy right now is to file a variance and appear before the BZA. The purpose of tonight, I think, is just maybe some initial discussion, but maybe we can all leave here this evening and with the thoughts in our mind, and the next time we reconvene, maybe we have some ideas of substance that we can talk about and go over that could be useful to include in our JZO.
I was
Are
asking
they going
Mitch.
to tiny,
The only,
tiny home subdivisions, or are they
Yeah.
sprinkled out anywhere?
that's
We-
the only one that I know about, and it was probably started 2 years ago. It's on Phil Road. It was Avant Gardens. It was approved through this board.
They're still advertising for that.
2009. Yeah, and the original idea was it was approved. I think there's 29 maybe plots,
Large lots.
large lots, $600,000 homes. I think somewhere in there originally approved. And at that time, it was an investor from Chicago. She came in, got approved, and she had a hard time selling because the market fell.
2007.
And then more recently, like 2 years ago, there was an investor from New Buffalo and Chicago, Mr. Hart. He looked at that area, and their idea was to create. Those lots are like 2-acre lots. He wanted to put 4 or 5 tiny homes on one, maybe more than that, 7 tiny homes on one lot for a total of 160 tiny homes in that little area. So obviously, in our ordinance, you're allowed one house per one home per parcel, and there is accessory dwelling units we have in our zoning ordinance, which would allow at 800, I think up to 800 square foot home. That's kind of like the mother-in-law house, which we give that option to. I don't know if that would apply to any of these, but anyways, that did not fly because obviously they wanted to share a septic system, and that's pretty high density when you're talking 29 houses to 175 houses on the same amount of land, and the nearest sewer and water was 3 miles away, and they didn't want to flip that bill. No tip district. But yeah, so that's the only thing I personally ran into, and that did not happen. And what happened with that situation is I made a recommendation. I'm like, the market's picking back up, so now they're actively marketing those same home sites for single family residents. And today, what I've heard today is they already sold I think 5 lots. So, and those are in that same range, the $600,000 to $800,000 range. So I'm thinking in today's market they're going to do a lot better, and it's already approved to this board. But that's the only example I personally ran into 2 years. I don't attend the BZA. That's right.
We're just looking to you because we would obviously do some research, and
Yeah,
we're
we'd
not
have-
the first people here, so
Right.
other people have tiny home
I do know our nearby communities. There is no tiny home ordinance. In Porter County, I did research when this came up, and especially the subdivisions. As far as my knowledge, there is no tiny home subdivision allowed anywhere in Indiana.
I don't know either.
It's
Lake,
not.
Porter,
Maybe
St. Joe.
California.
California.
Right on the edge when it's gonna fall.
I could see in nearby. I did some research already, but maybe nearby states. Or I could, you know, APA puts American Planning Association and Indiana Planning Association has documentation. Sometimes journals on some of these topics related to land use and development. And maybe I could do some research and find what some communities have done. But other than that, that's why I asked, like, you know, how frequent is this? And that's what the BZA is there for, traditionally, for these situations. I mean, if there's a lot, if you're seeing 10 of these, well, obviously, it makes sense to change your zoning ordinance. But if you're seeing 1, 2 every 6 months,
I know we had at least one last year that got approved, but we get called about it all the time in the office, people wanting to do a smaller home, and then they just get shut down, and they don't know, we don't get called back, they buy somewhere else.
I don't know where I'd be curious to know where they're putting those small homes. Because as far as I know, there's no ordinance that would fit. Well, if you're talking this 964
not a subdivision.
square foot.
They just want to do a tiny home.
Tiny home. What the one you mentioned was 964 square foot.
That's not approved yet.
Okay, but are you talking tiny homes? I'm thinking are like, you know, 370 square foot, not 960.
Well, it sounds like you have two different, we have two different sizes, tiny homes in a subdivision
And this-
for a house smaller than 1,000 square foot on whatever acreage they own.
Yes.
If they own 5 or 10 acres, they just want to put a small house, they don't
Small,
want anything
yeah.
bigger, and we do not approve that.
So it's not necessarily
Not a too
tiny
small.
home, but just
A smaller
100
home.
square foot, maybe smaller than our requirements.
Hunting shed, or whatever they want to
Yeah.
do. I mean, I do know some people bought a lot of acreage, and they go hunting, and they don't want a big home, they just want a place they're going to go hunting at.
I know, yeah, you know, good. I know somewhere that does allow that. Actually, when I think about it, it's Missouri. My brother just bought a house in Branson.
So we called you up here for
He
a
bought
reason.
like 20 acres overlooking Table Lake
Yeah,
in Branson, and he has like a 900 square foot house.
They want to
Log-
sleep,
log-
and
small
they
log
want to
cabin.
have a bathroom, and they
Yeah.
want to go hunting.
I can look around.
Okay.
Like I said, APA Journal, IPA as well. They have documentation, and then they discuss these kind of things. I can see what's out there, but off the top of my head, I personally haven't really dealt with it, but we'll look into it.
Okay.
And like you've discussed, I mean, this is more than just tiny homes. There's a breakdown. You know, there's the less than 1,000 square feet that are in the 900 range. There's you know, maybe
Where's
subdivisions
the
of them.
majority of them? The majority, are they like 900? Because maybe that's just a simple change of our
we're-
zoning ordinance if that covers 90%.
We're actually getting called on all of them. Ones that are in the 900 range, and then ones that are more developments of mini tiny homes. And it also goes with the shipping containers that Mr. Karanka alluded to in the statement about people making tiny homes out of those. And right now, we know how that is being addressed through the JZO. So I think this is a chance to get out in front of this, get some thought on it, some discussion on it, and see how we want to deal with it.
Because I think the foundation issue needs to come into play heavily with that, because, you know, as we are readdressing the mobile home issues and things like that, even a tiny home, if it's 300 square feet, what foundation is going to be there for it? Because we want to make it a permanent, not one of the that you can pick up and leave tomorrow with.
And then mobile homes are allowed anyway, or they're only allowed in mobile home communities and
Yeah, well,
mobile home zone districts.
We're going to
Or supposed
discuss
to be.
that as the next item under new business.
yeah, that's going to be
That's the next
discussion,
item under new
That's,
business.
Supposed to be.
So we'll
except for shooting ranges.
yeah,
Adam
so-
wanted to-
we'll use Mike as a repository here for whatever Mitch gets and whatever we dig up, and see where we'd kind of like to land this thing.
We definitely don't want multiple units on one piece of ground. No way. Not even the city sewer, I would.
And also, like Rita said, we want to make sure that these can be inspected and they're done to code and safely with proper footings.
Yes, please.
Anything else in tiny homes?
I'm good.
Shooting ranges.
All right, so as a result of last week's meeting, we also had a petition where It was ultimately denied, but it was denied on lack of definition and some level of remonstrance, along with some concerns about the petitioner versus the landowner, which overall, the overall petition needed some help. But what it highlighted is the fact that in the current zoning ordinance, we have a few mentions of indoor and outdoor shooting ranges, and when it comes to outdoor ranges, all you are required is a special exception on M1 and M2 properties, which would include the plot that was petition was filed against, which was a portion of the Kingsbury Industrial Park area. But if you look at Indiana Code 1422 31.5 Section 6, that statute puts the responsibility on the locality, in this case the county, to define the requirements around an indoor and outdoor shooting range. That could be anywhere from in this case there was the graphic included a 12-foot tall berm for a high-powered rifle range, which was considered a little bit subpar for the intent, although there wasn't really clear intent in the plan. And if you look out in public domain, organizations like the Department of Energy actually have a recommendation or guidelines document that was published about 10 years ago for shooting ranges. And I'm not an expert. I will not declare myself as an expert, but there are some that are out there, and I know there might be a guy on Zoom that has some more input to this than he's giving out right now. But I think we need to be, if we're going to be if we're going to put the BZA in a position to approve such ventures, we might want to put some more guidance, because the state doesn't have any for us, and nor do we as a county. So, what are minimum requirements?
So we're not looking for shutting down shooting ranges. We're looking for the BZA to have some sort of standards that people don't come here, and we have our attorney here to say that you gave one guy this person got this and this person got that, and that's not fair. We're looking for some standardization.
And realistically, it makes more sense for us to make a reference to another entity that is more equipped, knowledge base wise, to define it. Whether that be the Department of Energy or its requirements to use a certified NRA site planner or something of that nature. Joe, I'm really actually hoping for some input here, that maybe some information you may have. Hate to get you cold, but...
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that, Mr. Crockett. So these are going to be business ventures, correct? So it's a business that's looking to start up?
Absolutely. So in this particular petition...
So for a business, there's a couple different things you could look at. You mentioned was pretty good an NRA site planner, for example. One of the things may be to look at as well. It's hard to, depending on what shooting range is going to be like. It's going to be long range, it's going to be short range. Exactly what are you looking at? One of the things that may cover some of that by being broad enough but still encompassing enough is requiring, and this is just an idea, but some sort of pre-certification for insurance, for example. So if it's a business venture, they're going to have to be insured to operate a shooting range. And generally speaking, most insurance companies that insure ranges have specific requirements that are incumbent upon the policyholder to fulfill before the insurer will insure that range. So, for example, a 12-foot berm, let's say, for a pistol range, 3 feet, may be adequate. But if you're, a 12-foot high berm at 1,000 yards is probably not going to be, not going to be high enough. So I definitely think for businesses, give the BZA some direction, perhaps something along those lines. I want to look into it a little bit more as I've never owned a business shooting range. That's a little above my pay grade, but knowing how a lot of them operate and having a lot of contacts in the industry, I may be able to look into some of that and find some sort of standard and best practices that may be able to offer some guidance.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? Mike?
I would agree with Commissioner Haney's statements, and even if we can tighten things up, like it's so general right now in terms, if we could know, okay, what type of weapons are going to be used at this range and with what type of ammo, knowing that is going to help standardize what type of size berms, like Commissioner Haney said, and what other safety precautions would be good to have.
Anyone? And again, this is not something new. I'm sure we can look at neighboring communities who are looking at these businesses themselves. Just the world we live in right now. Anyone else? Nothing else? Anything else? Anything else?
No, Tony?
Yes.
Mr. President? Just wanted to follow up one more time so that if the viewing public comes in later at the beginning, middle, or end of this, just to point out that what we're talking about here is for commercial business endeavors specifically. So not private landowners, but commercial business entities, or just some guidance for business entities that want to come out.
Yes. Business people that are going to run a commercial business for a shooting range need a special exception, and we are looking at some sort of normalized standard on what we could allow them to do that.
If I might, we're talking outdoor ranges, right? Not indoor ranges.
In this particular case, we're talking outdoor ranges because in the ordinance right now, it's permitted in, I believe, M2. I'd have to go back and look at the standard, with special exception in M1. And for outdoor ranges, it is a special exception for both M2 and M1.
One suggestion might be, we already have commercial ranges in our county. There's one at KIP, for instance. It'd be easy to talk to I believe they're called the gun master or range master.
Range master.
Yes.
And we probably get possibly good information from them moving forward.
Because they have an exceptional range down there. Top notch.
Yeah,
it is
pretty good.
really nice.
So I'm sure there's some good guidance they could provide us.
And that was upgraded from what used to be a typical gun range to now being something that's pretty amazing. Concrete and berms, and it's an amazing facility.
So, yeah, that's what I was. Do that.
Yeah.
Anything else? Anything else to come from the Plan Commission?
Mr. President, under new business, this kind of ties into code enforcement. I've actually met with proponents of code enforcement that are in favor of it, and also opponents of it that are not in favor of it. So we've got kind of a 50-50 push going on in the county about how to deal with complaints. And right now it's not illegal to be a hoarder or live like a pig or have dilapidated property, and we have ordinances that cover the most serious and egregious violations that would be considered a public health and safety hazard. However, there are a growing list of complaints that certain people, they move in an area and do things at our property that lowers other property values, such as scrapping, hoarding, junking, junk vehicle properties turning up. And throughout the course of the year and thinking on how to deal with this, and this is also multi-jurisdictional because you've got the Sheriff's Department with junk cars, you've got MS4 with fluids and contamination and groundwater, you've got Health Department, and then you also have my office, which seems to be the catch-all. So perhaps a prudent way to go about it would be to break it down into smaller, easier things to deal with. And one of those things is mobile homes. And the reason that I want to focus on that first is because there seems to be a lack of consistency on how this is being dealt with. And there's already a code on the books to deal with this, that, mobile homes in the county need to be in a mobile home park or have a variance in existence to exist outside of a mobile home park. So, and we've got about 300 of these that exist throughout the county at this time. But what we have is, we have realtors.
300 outside of the mobile home park?
Yes, sir. We have realtors that appear before the Board of Zoning to do it the right way and request a variance, and then they may be denied for whatever reason, and then other real estate transactions are just going through, and new people are moving onto the land and into the property without a variance, and they don't know. It's not a well publicized thing. So I've met with legal counsel, and I've met with other interested parties, and we've, come up with some ideas on how to deal with it. In fact, I'll turn over the floor to our legal counsel. He can tell you where he's at, and then we can further discuss the issue.
Well, I got with you. We know it's 300 because the assessor's office was good enough to run this report. So we know we've identified which properties those are. And I spoke with the auditor, and now keep in mind this is an end of the transaction effort. It's kind of like the health department when they started their inspection requirement. So the auditor's office and the real estate division has agreed when they review sales disclosure form, which is required to be with a deed, if this property does not have a variance, because keep in mind it's already in violation. Okay, if it does not have a variance, then they're not going to allow or accept the real estate disclosure form, which will prevent any recording of any deeds. So that will stop the transfer of the property. Now, that said, so we have a mechanism to prevent it from happening, but we've got to get the word out to the realtors, the public, the title companies, and the commission has to decide whether or not this is the only procedure I can figure out on how to stop the transfers. Getting the word out is another story, all right? But that will end the procedure where people are selling mobile homes in violation of the code.
We're going to ask our real estate person here, does that stop the transfer before or after the closing?
Well, that's what, when you just now said that, I took a couple notes, so not having thought process much here of this whole thing. If you're having the auditor stop the process, that means it's already taken place at the title company at that point in time. So the variance, there wouldn't be a variance because if the original owner had a variance, it's going to die before, the new owner it's going to die right then at that
The new owner
at the
doesn't have
transfer.
it.
So the new owner would not be able to get a variance until they actually own it. So there's no way for that.
You could petition for a variance with the owner before the transaction occurs. Okay, number one.
Yes,
Number
if it's in
two.
the purchase contract to be able to do
Right.
that so that it's approved for that variance.
Right. So there's a
So-
process in place for them to apply for any prospective purchaser to apply for a variance. And I want to add, because I might be cutting you off on this one, but this is similar to what the health department did with their inspections, because once the word was out, the title companies would not permit a closing unless there was a certificate showing an inspection. So the title companies, in a way, kind of picked up that enforcement. I'm predicting that's what will happen here if the title company recognizes a mobile home, because they have to insure it. Okay? They're not going to insure it if it's in violation of any ordinances. So this is a trigger for them to stop the sale or transaction prior to closing.
Except that the title, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Except that the title companies are now processing the transaction and getting those certificates after the fact. They're ordering them after the transaction is completed. Unless you're like me, who comes to the health department, picks up that certificate, takes it to my closing and says, here it is. I don't wait for the after effect. I want to know I have that certificate in hand. Some title companies are not processing that till after the fact that everybody's walked out and everything's transferred. So the other thing is, yes, the policing was happening at the title companies. And now, of course, now there's that waiver in effect. So if the title company has a waiver, it's all pushed aside again for that to not process at the time of the closing. So yeah, there's going to be those loopholes, there's going to be those cracks, and we're going to have to work through it. But yes, the prevention of it happening, hopefully with the realtors when they do make their offer, like you said, to be able to come to the commission and say, hey, I need this variance, and hopefully it all goes through properly.
But kind of stemming off of Tony's question just a few moments ago, the filing at the auditor's office occurs after the closing at the title company. Which does that make, at which point does now the property is owned by, whether it be the health department or in this particular case we talk about mobile homes, who's liable at this point? The new owner or the person that just sold the property?
Well, that's a difficult question because we're presuming the realtors follow all the rules, and I won't comment any further on that, okay? But really, we're shutting it off at the end.
Yes.
That's the only way I can figure out how to do this. So to get the word out to the realtors and the title companies, well, if the owner has a property that's in violation of the zoning ordinance, then it's going to be up to a court to decide who would ultimately be liable, but the title company has to insure this.
Yeah.
They're not going to close if they can't insure it. And if it's a violation, they can't, that's going to be problematic for the title company themselves.
If we have a problem with shutting it off at the end, and we know that we only have 300 or approximately 300, what's to keep us from sending out a certified mailer to each of those property owners in the near future saying, we're letting you know that you cannot transfer this property without step 1, step 2, and step 3, with now given notice up front rather than at the end.
That is an excellent comment, and we actually have already started that process.
Thank you.
I want to dovetail on that, but a couple things, and Rita's answered one of them already. The health department, I hate to put it on them, but if something's going to close and there's a residence on there, there has to be an inspection of that septic, whether it's a mobile home or it's a house or an outhouse. And the real estate people, I guess they can waiver around it in the closing, but I'd say the majority of them don't. They make sure that certification's there, that the health department has given you a clean bill of health for the septic, no matter what it is. So now you're shutting that off preemptively. But I do like Earl, and then kind of dovetail on Mike's, that is there a way, because I do not want to put stuff on people's property, but we can put on the Beacon website a classification that this property has a variance for a mobile home set to the owner, not to, and it's only for the owner or present, not for the new person. So if the real estate agent pulls it up, they see that and says, wait a minute, this has got a mobile home, this has a variance that will not transfer. They are now notified either through the seller or the buyer that this piece of property, they're going to pull the Beacon card up and say, this has it on here, I need to do something about this.
I like that. And if we already have those type of properties labeled, such as, I think Doug and I talked about this, so the trailer's not even considered real estate, right? The land is the real estate, it's personal property, so it's a different tax class. So it shouldn't be that big of a deal to have that, on there about the variance. And typically in today's world, when somebody petitions the zoning board for a variance, they're given a 2 or 3 year variance for placement of that mobile home. Now, I'm aware that in the past there were lifetime variances issued for mobile homes for whatever reason, but those still terminate upon the death of the petitioner or the transfer of the property.
See, I don't want to give you more work, but it would be nice if you put something on there that said, this was the person who got it, this is the date they got it. That's the only person that's going to have this. If it transfers or they pass, it does not transfer. It does not continue along with the property.
Run with the land? Or run with the owner. There's none that run with the land.
Right, it's all in the owner.
Okay.
Yeah, all the variances on mobile homes are to the person.
Okay.
So between those, I guess, 3 things,
I can check about the Beacon thing tomorrow with Stacy, but I think the classifications that they use over there are preset to Beacon. I don't know if you can add any new ones, because I had asked her about some stuff before, and it wasn't possible.
maybe ask Mike what it takes for Schneider to add a field.
Like a big red stop sign.
That wouldn't be bad. Not a bad idea, like, wait, this property has got something I have to look at before I transfer.
The more we can do along these lines, to get out in front of it, like Earl said, I mean, Doug's covering the back end, but, you know, the more ample notification that we have out in the public domain for realtors and for homeowners alike, the more chance that we have to avoid a bad situation where a transaction has occurred. People, you know, most people don't know. They think they're buying a house on land that happens to be a mobile home. They don't know it's a personal property and it's taxed different and you can't do it. So, you know, we want to avoid those bad situations as much as possible.
Another option at this point in time probably is a press release to the local media, something on Facebook, because you might get 25 or 30% of the people that you inform them and they're going to make note of that. Hey, we can't sell this without. So that doesn't cost you anything except putting together a press release. That's something else I would certainly explore.
Agreed.
Something little on Facebook, within a week or two, it multiplies so many times that a lot of people see. Trust me, I know.
I don't want to read that thread.
Yeah, we're trying to educate people, we're not trying to penalize them.
Exactly. Yeah, your press release is for education. You're not trying to save somebody a headache later if they know in advance.
Yeah, the unwind
Absolutely.
closing would not be fun. Any other discussion?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Floor is yours.
You know, I'm glad that Earl just brought up the social media and Facebook because there is a question I want to ask concerning that. The D&M saga continues out there in social media land and also at every commissioner meeting. And, you know, recently, like, you know, Earl said, something goes out there and then it blows up. So I have been asked and badgered and bullied repeatedly by certain individuals to take unilateral action to shut down the operations that are occurring at the D&M site. And what I have done is, my response is I have reaffirmed the findings of this plan commission prior to my arrival in this office, and also the findings and interpretation of the ordinance of our legal counsel. And we don't have any current permits that have been issued by my office or that have any jurisdictional authority, so I'm not going to take any unilateral action as the building commissioner to shut this down. Now, having said that, that's being challenged via, you know, slander and libelous post out there on social media, and also every 2 weeks at the county commissioners meeting. So the purpose for me bringing that up is to ask this board, do you have any directives for me as far as handling this case or guidance?
Mike, I'm going to cut in on you. I don't think they can comment because there's no petition before the plan commission. Until there's a petitioner request, they can't act. It's on your broad shoulders, my friend.
Mr. BG, is it reasonable that Plan Commission giving, for example, support to appear at a commissioners meeting behind the person who is making the unfounded charges to rebut those to the commissioners?
Well, the individual plan commissioners, or the plan commission members, are certainly entitled to their opinions and to speak in public. And in
Anything else?
in doing so, I'm going to be clear. In doing so, that's not plan commission action.
Right.
Right.
Anything else?
Should you identify yourself as a plan commissioner, however I'm speaking as a private citizen?
Yeah, I think that would be the most accurate way to do it. I want to clarify on the mobile homes. I'm assuming the planning commission doesn't want to take action. Well, it's not you taking action, it's enforcing what's already on the books. But as far as preventing the deeds from being recorded, is that something the commission wants to happen, or do you want the public outreach program to occur for a period of time? Or I'm asking for direction on what you want to happen on my end.
I see the members discussing, but I hate to go back to legal counsel. Is that something we have any jurisdiction over?
Well, you could add, it's an enforcement, and I figured out a way to do it, okay? And the auditor's office is willing to do it. The question is, when? I don't need official action, but it seems to me we want a grace period, for lack of a better term, in case there are any transactions pending. Yes, they're in violation, but it doesn't seem to me fair that the word's not out to the public, or that there might be some people that don't understand. I'm just looking for
So
direction
the Plan
on
Commission will
what
direct
action you
our
want me
legal
to take.
counsel to take effect to educate the individuals that may be transferring properties that we are going to enforce that part of our ordinance.
Okay, so it's on, just put out the word, it's,
With some grace period.
okay, yeah, I'm thinking 6 months.
Yeah, that makes sense. In the meantime, have some kind of educational through the media.
Okay.
Yes. Anything else?
It seems to me that anything that's fairly well-written and distributed to the Herald Dispatch will eventually make the front page.
Agreed.
Mike, anything else?
Wrapping it up, I sent everybody, all the members out a quarterly report. It went out late in the day, so I don't know if all of you have received that yet.
Very impressive.
Thank you. So other than everything else that we've talked about, our office has been working closely with economic development and meetings, and with architects and developers that are coming into our county that are thinking about dropping anchor here. And you know, this was brought up earlier in the evening, but you know, one of the most important things that we can do, aside from having, say, a housing czar or a marketing person to go out and sell our county on why people would want to come here, live here, build here, or do business here, it's infrastructure. We need the infrastructure, specifically sewer and water. If we have that, we don't need a czar or a marketing or anything else. The architects and developers will come, and then we can review the plans accordingly and go from there. Other than that, we've been doing collections on larger projects and permits that have been not being paid, so we can you know, keep up our revenue and have a self-sufficient and supportive office without needing additional appropriations from council. Permits, zoning variances, and complaints, and let me put the word complaints in all caps and bold because they all come. Whether it's Kroger bags blowing into somebody's yard, or digging, or loud noises, or you know, to even the more egregious complaints. But that's what we've been up to. Thanks for hearing me out tonight. It looks like Ashley wants to say something. I'll tell him that next meeting.
Okay.
That's all I have for now.
Just killing me already.
Any other comments from commission members?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes.
I just wanted to say thank you to Commissioner Poland and his team, from Janet to Ashley and inspectors like Dave. You guys have done a fantastic job this year with ever-mounting issues that have come up. So thank you guys. And on a personal note, happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Joe.
you. Same to you, Joe.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Aye.